Joe, there's the original there.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's what we should be using.
What do you think?
Why are we using it?
We should run on coal.
I think so. Hong Kong.
If you guys look close, and once we get out, we might see some snakes in there.
No, you're not.
I want to, Sharon.
You're not going to.
Probably over there if you go that way,
Maybe a chupacabra.
right?
It's not. No, not really. There's
Not-
people in the houses. They're not really.
Probably they have some den over there.
A lot of them are hibernating, so they don't come out to March. They
Oh, the one that was really hot.
hibernate.
They want really hot to come out, right?
The nights are still cold, and we still had frost. It's just starting to get nice, but they're not warm enough yet.
Not really hot.
I feel like it's
Going, going. Hong Kong.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome aboard the Superstition Scenic Railroad. My name is Bruce. I'll be your engineer, conductor, brakeman, gateman, tour guide, chief, cook, and bottle washer. Feel free to stand up and turn around whenever you'd like to. There'll be things to see on both sides.
how nice that is.
Yeah, I know.
We get it in a minute.
And we'll get started with this big old mountain off to the right. That, my friends, is the western face of the Superstition Mountain Range. It's about 5,000 feet above sea level up on top.
Oh, 5,000.
And geologists tell us that it was formed 30 million years ago at the edge of a volcanic caldera.
Oh, volcanic.
Today, the entire mountain range is 250 square miles of federally protected wilderness area. That means you can no longer mine or prospect up there, but you can hike to the top anytime you want. And now a little bit about these big tall cactus that you see all around the town. The ones with all the arms on them. There's a few of them coming up on both sides there. Those are giant saguaro, and they live only here in the Sonoran Desert. They can get to be 250 years old, and they don't grow their first arm until they're about 75 years old. Coming up on the left side, these weird-looking cactus with all the green fruit hanging off them are called jumping cholla or chain fruit cholla. And if you look closely, you'll see bird nests up among the thorns on those cactus. Those are made by Arizona state bird, the cactus wren. I'll never figure out how they do it, though, without stabbing themselves to death. Also on the left, after we get past these cars, up on that little hillside there, you'll see some smaller cactus that look a little bit like Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah.
Those are prickly pear, and they produce a fruit that people use to
Oh,
make
that's
all
the one
sorts
I
of
told you. They produce
jams and
fruits.
jellies and candies and syrup and ice cream and even a pretty good margarita, believe it or not.
Ooh.
On the right side, here we have a steel head frame from the early 1900s. They would use that steam-powered winch to haul that bucket full of gold ore up out of the mine shaft. Then they would dump the bucket down that chute to fill up the ore cars. Then they'd haul the ore cars off to a place called the stamp mill, where they would crush the ore and separate the rock from the gold. Now, right after we pass this telephone pole on the right side, if you look out that way, you're going to see a great big hole in the ground.
Oh.
That is the Wasp Mine. Now, today it's an open pit mine or strip mine, but it started out as one of the 4 large underground mines that were out here. What happened was a family bought that claim in 1983. They opened it back up and began strip mining down there. And by 1985, they had pulled about 1,500 ounces of gold out of that hole. Also off to the right, out by that old blue dump truck, you'll notice a couple of smokestacks sticking up between those concrete walls. Those are coal-fired steam boilers. And they're out there because back in the old days, all the mining equipment at all the different mines out here, it all ran on steam. There were boilers like those all around the whole mining district. Those 2 boilers powered the main shaft and the head frame of the Mammoth Mine, which is the second of those 4 large underground mines that I'll talk about. The Mammoth was by far the largest and the most productive of all the mines out here, and it was also the deepest. The main shaft went straight down 1,058 feet. As we come out from under the trestle, the Mammoth was located off to the right, behind that pile of dirt with that little ore car in front of it. The third of those 4 big underground mines is also out there to the right. Out behind that gray metal building with the red door is the Black Queen Mine. Now, back in the early days, there were more than 100 separate mining claims out here, but they were all what's called surface mines or placer mines. And what that meant for the miners was they would locate a claim, and then they'd come out here with a pick and a shovel, and they'd scrape and scratch at the surface, never deeper than 10 feet down. They'd gather what ore they could, and then they would have to move on and try to find another claim. That all changed one day when a fellow from Colorado showed up out here. He was a mining engineer and an investor, and he had learned all about underground mining from his Colorado experience. So he looked around down here, he liked what he saw on the surface, and he bought the 4 biggest mines out here and converted all 4 of them into underground mines. And that's what really started the gold boom here at Goldfield. Underground mining was a lot more efficient and productive and a whole lot more profitable than surface mining. Now, the 4th one of those big underground mines was called the Bulldog Mine, and it was located out ahead of the train, beyond those power lines, at the left end of those hills out there, where that great big boulder is sticking up. That's about where the Bulldog Mine was, and they say that that boulder used to look like the head of a bulldog. You can kind of still see the ears on it.
Oh.
Well, one day some of the miners got a little bit rambunctious, and they went up there to play with their dynamite, and they wound up blowing the whole face right off that boulder.
Oh.
There may have been some liquor involved. Nobody knows because they never caught those guys. Now, if you look over to the left, you'll get a lovely view of the town with the Superstition Mountains in the background. The prospecting actually started out here in the 1860s, but very few people were brave enough to come out and try their hand at it because Apache Indian raids were still fairly common back then, and this whole area was well known as a dangerous place to hang out. A couple of brave souls did venture out here though, and they did manage to find some gold. And by 1891, the Apache raids had subsided, and word had gotten back to civilization about the gold strikes happening out here, and all of a sudden, people just started to flood into the town. It seemed like everybody was coming out here from everywhere to see if they could get in on a little bit of the action. And so the town began to grow, and it grew very quickly, until at one point, there were 3 saloons operating here, along with about 30 other businesses. They had the mercantile store, of course, and they had a blacksmith shop and livery stable and a boarding house. They had a butcher shop and a bakery and a brewery. They even had a 1-room schoolhouse for their children. The population at that point was around 1,500 people. And of those 1,500, about 500 were the actual miners. But the miners and their families, they really didn't live in the town proper. They lived all around the town, out here in the surrounding desert, in canvas tents. It was a tough way to make a living, but they were some very tough people, and it was real good money. So they all stuck to it, and more of them kept showing up out here almost every day. And then in 1893, the postmaster at Mesa City, which was the closest town back then, they realized they'd been sending a whole lot of mail out here on the stagecoach. So they sent somebody out to investigate. And that person came back and reported that there were now more than enough people out here for Goldfield to be able to have its own post office. So in 1893, a U.S. post office opened up here. And only a month or two later, still 1893,